Welcome to our podcast. I'm Monica, and this is Evan. Should I have you say your name?
No, that's fine. It's great.
We're gonna leave this all in. So this is our first podcast ever, ever creating a podcast. So we don't have a name for this podcast yet, but we do have a theme. We came up with this theme because we are watching The Acolyte, which just premiered last week.
Mhm.
And we keep finding ourselves having these thoughtful conversations about it. And I'm just like, do other people talk about this? It'd be really fun to just sit down and record it and just have a conversation and just see if other people are having the same thoughts as we are. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, it seems like a fun medium to do such a thing without going down the never-ending hole of like a deep dive Reddit conversation where you've got millions of people and lots of not so thoughtful comments. So hopefully this is a better medium to have that kind of conversation and keep it fun.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, so let's dive in. So they dropped 2 episodes last week. So I had a lot of thoughts about the title, like the intro, not intro, what's it called?
Can we back up just a second?
Yes.
Because I kind of wanted to touch on what were our presumptions coming into the show. There wasn't a lot
Ooh.
of trailers, and I I'll just kind of spitball a couple of ideas I had coming into it. First was like I had a lot of thoughts about this show before I ever got a trailer because they were talking about it so much, and some of the um actors that were in it, Daphne Keene, we may know as Little Wolverine, was going to be in it, and then uh Carrie
I'm so
Carrie
bad.
Ann from
The
from The
Matrix.
Matrix was going to be in it. Um, the guy from The Good Place is going to be in it. Like a lot of these
Mhm.
like faces that I recognize from shows that I enjoyed. Um, and just wondering like where they're going to go with this.
My thoughts going into the show. I kept going back and forth with my expectations. Like I was excited because it's Star Wars. I love Star Wars. But also I wasn't excited because I didn't have any pre-character investment. I didn't have any excitement to follow a new story of a character that I already know and love. Or I'm excited about.
Mhm.
So that was something I was struggling with. But yeah, I saw Dave Filoni did an interview with the director. Oh my gosh, I feel so bad. I don't know the director's
Leslie
name.
Headland.
Yeah, so that got me pumped. I was like, okay, they're fans. It's fun seeing that the actors are fans as well. So that really gets me excited. If the actors are fans like we are, it feels like I'm more invested in it because they are
Hmm.
in the quality of the show.
Hmm.
Yeah. What were your
I don't know. I didn't let's jump to like when they started giving us trailers, right? It it felt like they were hiding a lot. Um, which on the one hand like made me excited because how many trailers do you watch where they spoil the entire show and then you're like, great, like now I have to watch all the filler parts because all the good stuff already happened in the trailer. And so I was a little excited just because like I don't know, it's a new Star Wars project. I have no idea what it's about,
Yeah.
kind of like you said, that can go either way. Like it's scary not having a character to be like, all right, like I'm gonna watch Ahsoka, my favorite character,
Yeah.
or we're gonna get flashbacks of Qui-Gon,
Yeah.
like the best good Jedi there ever was.
Hmm.
And to not have these kind of like cornerstone characters to lean on in a universe you're already familiar with felt odd.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, my brain's going all over the place. I am just thinking about um how spoilers and that kind of stuff too. Like I'm glad they didn't release too much because I am one of those people, I don't know how many people are like this. I don't like watching trailers. I
We're opposites.
I hate watching trailers because I feel like trailers release so much of the show and
Yeah.
then half the time when I watch a trailer I'm like, great, I don't need to watch a show that I was so excited for. Like I feel like I already got it. Like I know what's gonna happen by predicting what's happening in this trailer. So I try not to watch trailers. I really more enjoy actor interviews. So that's what got me pumped again is
Mhm.
watching the actors get excited because the trailers are right. Like I was just like, like, is this anything interesting? Like, I have no idea what's gonna happen, which is pretty fun.
I feel like we've taken enough time on that. Let's jump into the actual show.
Yeah. So let's jump into first off, I want to get into you. Okay, I'm a note taker, you guys. I took some notes.
No, I'm glad because my thought process is all over the place, and that helps keep us on a somewhat chronological linear path, right?
Yeah,
So,
totally. So, I don't want to go chronological exactly, but I do want to dive into the intro sequence, which is just the name Acolyte, right?
yeah,
Like it's not like a normal like
yeah. There's no big like 2 minutes
it's not
like
like Game of Thrones
the opening
beautiful
for
intro.
X-Men that
Right?
you
Yeah.
know you're about to like go.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 4 second opening.
Yeah, there's no
Just
like
the title screen.
sketchy. Yeah, exactly. So I did like look at that and I was just like really investigating like Acolyte, right? Like the art that they had behind it. So from what I saw is like they had two O's layering each other, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Hmm.
Like that's kind of like layering, kind of looks like an eclipse. Now
Hmm.
I'm gonna mix
No,
that
that's what it
solar
looks like.
eclipse.
Sure. Hold on, hold on.
One of the
Yeah.
eclipses. So it looks like an eclipse. It also has like
Oh, excuse me. I think it looks like a lunar eclipse.
lunar eclipse.
Yeah.
See? Yeah,
Yeah.
I got that.
Anyway, an
Science. I'm
eclipse.
trying.
Right, right.
So there's an eclipse going on with the O's, but then I also saw like there's
I guess it
a
depends on whether or not you think the one getting blocked out is the sun or a moon, because I kind of see it
mhm,
more like a moon because it's not
mm,
super bright, but it could be
yeah,
a sun. Who knows?
it could be
It's
either.
an eclipse of sorts.
So it's an eclipse, but then off of that eclipse, like there is a flare, like a lens flare that we're getting from that reflection that is red and blue, which I thought was kind of interesting. I don't know
Hmm.
if you caught that.
Well, you said it out loud,
Well,
so I did notice.
okay. So, but yeah, I noticed that red and blue, dark and light, can be
Hmm.
interpreted as that.
Hmm.
And then like I was just thinking about how like there's two O's, there's twins in this series, so they
Spoiler
could
alert.
be okay. Yeah, don't
Just
listen to
kidding.
this
This is
if
covering the whole first 2 episodes, but
yeah,
yes, we'll soon find that out.
obviously. So
She knew that watching the opening sequence. She is psychic.
right. So there are twins in this series. So same but different. I'm seeing like two O's, two of the same.
Mhm.
And then also there's a quote later on, always one but born as two, which I thought was kind of fun. That kind of I feel like that ties into the two O's
Mhm.
into the
Mhm.
polite title.
Mhm.
Anyways, that's the intro. That's what got me thinking. I was like, okay, light and dark. There's gonna be some light and dark aspects, maybe. There's gonna be twins. There's gonna be maybe some confusion. There's one, but there's two.
Mhm.
All of that.
Mhm. There was a lot of confusion with that in the first episode.
Oh my gosh, I was so confused.
Yeah.
I
Is that what you want to jump to next?
yeah, we can jump right into whatever we want to.
Okay. Well, let's go to the first confusing part then.
Yeah.
Which is definitely not going to be chronologically linear, but after the main character, Osha, is arrested. She's on the transport ship. It goes down, and then she has the what I'm now assuming was some kind of forced dream. But when you watch it in the moment, they're like, "Oh, you're on this planet where she crash landed," and I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little slow here, but to me, it felt like she actually awoke on the planet that it said she was on,
Mhm.
and she follows a person who looks like a little girl version of her twin.
I thought so
And
too.
I thought that was really happening.
I
Um,
genuinely thought that was all happening. Like it felt very real.
yeah,
Yeah, like I thought that actually happened. So I got a little confused when we did
yeah,
that because that's happened twice now where they've done like an event and then actually let's back up because
okay,
go to the very beginning because when
yeah,
you go to the beginning scene
hmm,
where May kills that master Jedi, which is
yeah.
a little confusing for me because like how the heck did you kill a master? Um
I thought that was actually a really good execution on that. I
yeah.
really loved that fight scene. That was really great. But
Yeah.
go ahead. We disagree on that, but explain your side first. I want to interrupt you the entire
So,
time.
oh, I struggle with like May. I don't know her background. I don't know her training. Like, is she force sensitive? Like, is she like her master has a lightsaber? Like, I'm assuming there's something going on there, but like, how did this person who's not trained in the Jedi way just show up and murder a master Jedi? And also, it's very sad that we only got that actor for like a very quick
I
second.
assume there will be flashback scenes.
Yeah.
I think we'd all be really disappointed if she only has, 3 minutes of screen time in this whole series. So I felt differently about that. I felt like it was pretty heavily implying that she was not only like force sensitive, like she's a force user. Master Vendara says it, like I have an unregistered or whatever force user like on my hands here.
Yeah.
She's obviously like kicking tables across the room, something, you know,
Okay.
an average person typically can't do without force powers in this universe. She like hops up to the third floor of the bar
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
um all of that. She draws her weapons using the force. She just sticks her arms out and they shoot out of whatever her weird pocketed chest thing is.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah,
Um
she's definitely force sensitive.
so I felt like that felt pretty obvious, and I actually like that, just like most dark side users in this universe, if she can't overpower her enemy, she uses their weakness, which is to help other people, and that's how
Mhm.
she beats her. Is she puts an innocent person's life at risk, and the Jedi uses her power to save that person and gets killed in the process. And I thought that was very like straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense to me.
I mean, it reminds me of one of my favorite lines from, I guess every line from Maul is one of my favorite lines, but there's a line when he takes Savage as his apprentice, and they're like, Savage is like, well, how do we get the Jedi here? And Maul is like, well, the easiest way to get a Jedi's attention is slaughter of the innocent. And so he just goes on like this massive killing spree of innocent people, and like the Jedi always respond to that.
Yeah.
And that's how she wins the fight, is she attacks an innocent person to get their guard down.
Yeah. That's really good. I forgot about that.
I've watched Clone Wars a few more times than you have.
So let's jump into Yord.
Yord.
So
Yes.
because like okay, so I'm thinking like scene by scene, right? Like we jump into Yord in the part where he's like goes to the ship that OSHA's on, the what's it called? Is it a freighter ship? I can't remember. It's a
It's some kind of freighter. And we haven't really seen those guys since like episode 3 now. Like
yeah.
they haven't been in live action Star Wars stuff for a long time. Like I want to say close to 20 years. I could be wrong on that, but are they Nemodians? I can't remember. But yes, the ship OSHA's working on,
Mhm.
right? He
Yeah.
goes there.
So what are your thoughts on the way that Yord just like comes into the ship and his interrogation tactics?
Yeah, I wasn't sure at first. But I think the first impression I got from him was how frightened he was of her. And on the one hand, it makes a little bit of sense. Like you're arresting the person who you're being told killed someone who's a lot more powerful than you are and more
Mhm.
experienced than you are. And so I feel like I'm cutting him some slack now, but when I first saw him having this like friendly conversation with like, for lack of a better term, like they're old schoolmates. Like he went to school
Mhm.
with this girl. She's a mechanic on a ship. She's half his size. And the first time she moves in a way that he didn't already predict, he reaches for his weapon,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, he's very like quick to use his tools, right? So like when he
Yeah.
first got on the ship and he was like asking the ship captains or whatever, he like didn't really wait for them to ask or he didn't wait for them to really answer
Hmm.
on their own. He started to like reach out his hand like he was going to use the force to draw the answer out of them.
I
And
thought he
then
did. My
no,
impression was he did do that.
he started to, but I thought the person next to them was like, "Oh wait, no, 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 she's on the ship. She's right over here."
I think both of those things happened.
Yeah.
I think he was like quieting their mind and
Mm,
doing what you were afraid of him doing. I think he was literally doing that already when
yeah.
she just gave up the answer.
I just feel like he's so quick to use everything. Like go for his weapon, use
Mhm.
the force. Like
That's something I noticed in different spots in the show, is the Jedi do seem really quick to do what we used to call Jedi mind tricks on people
Mhm.
in a way that seems like an abuse of power.
Yeah.
And they all seem really comfortable doing this in this series. So I don't know if things were different back then,
Yeah.
but it's noticeable right away.
Yeah. It makes me feel a little weird. I'm like, "Oh, this is clearly, like, a different, like, time and place, like, that the story is taking place," right? So, like, I guess it's a good reminder, like, this isn't, like, what we have watched in the past, like,
Hmm.
this is different. This is 100 years ago, so things were different.
Hmm.
Um,
Can we
so
can we hit on the girl that comes with him for the arrest?
oh,
The
yeah,
Zygerian, which
yeah,
we've never gotten in live action before, the slavers
yeah,
in the Star Wars universe. That's like the majority of what they're known for being. So I thought that was really interesting to see one of them like trained as a Jedi.
yeah.
Um,
Super
I
fun.
never would have predicted that,
Mm-mm.
you know.
No. Yeah, super fun.
Yeah.
Um, I'm thinking about so I can't remember if Yord mentioned your mothers were lost in the fire. Is that Yord? I can't remember, but I noted your mothers, and I was like, oh, yeah, that was it. When he was interrogating or questioning
Yeah, yeah,
um
that's right. Yeah.
OSHA. So Yord was questioning OSHA, and he was like, your mothers were lost in the fire. And that made me just go, your mothers, like
Hmm.
my mind goes all over the place. I'm like, same sex family, like
Hmm.
what is this? This is cool. Like I'm
Yeah.
excited about this. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
like Star Wars is introducing like more like inclusivity into
Hmm.
their IP. So like very cool. But then also I don't want to get into it right now.
Oh, we
But
should get into it because it's an interesting talking point. Get into it.
okay. So your mothers, we now know that's referring to like a coven, like the the
Yes.
witches. You dig
Yeah.
into that because like you love all that stuff. I feel like you
That is interesting. That's not the interesting side I wanted to dig into it.
okay.
I was just, as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh boy, I could hear the, because no one hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans. And I can hear them screaming already about the wokeness. Oh, they have mothers. And it's just like, okay, guys, like
Yeah.
if you've been taking in all of the Star Wars content, having mothers, A is something everyone who's born has, and B having more than one mother is not that uncommon. If you know, I spoke about Darth Maul earlier, and he's they're Dathomirians and the Great Mothers, and you know, they subjugate the men for whatever they need them for, and it's not a new concept to Star Wars, and I thought it was both fun and also kind of provoking to have that so early on in the show,
Yeah.
especially when, you know, I feel like some of these shows are kind of sent out there on their heels to kind of expect this sort of thing, and they just start off with, you know, a main character who has multiple mothers and
Yeah.
her sisters, and they're all female family, and it's just like, oh boy, I can hear the haters
Yeah.
reaching for their keyboards.
Ugh. So what do you want to dig into next? Do we want
What you were talking about with the coven stuff, or you feel good about that?
no, I want to talk more about it because
It sounds like they're from a planet that's kind of known for having a coven and witches and that sort of thing. And so um, that kind of explains the force sensitive side of things too, I think, because the assumption is they're all kind of force sensitive, you
yeah.
know.
So they are from Brendok, where Mother Anastasia and her coven are active there. So,
Forgive us on the pronunciation there.
yeah, I'm
We
probably
only read
saying
these things
that
online.
all very wrong. But like it's just so interesting, right? So like when we think about May and Osha and like okay, so they're from this coven, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm thinking like the Dathmirian sisters
Exactly.
coven. I'm saying it wrong. But
I don't
anyways,
think they use that word, but
okay.
I mean,
It's
they're witches who live together and perform magic, so
right.
no one should follow you on that.
So so we've got that going. And then just thinking about how when I'm kind of like bouncing all over the story, but that's okay.
Yes.
Soul mentions to Osha that May was deleted from the records.
Yeah, that was super suspect, you know, on top of them abusing their power. they're deleting characters from the records, and the only history we have of that is is I can't remember the name, but the same Jedi who made the order to have the clones created, it was in
Mhm,
his name and it was his login that deleted the the cloner's homeworld from the records in the Jedi
mhm,
archives.
mhm.
And that's the only like historical relevance that I could think of where someone had gone into the records and deleted something, or in this case, someone from the records. So that sets a really nasty precedent there because there's a history of this not being a thing that's necessarily done to cover up positive actions.
Right. And you said a really great thing to me earlier when I mentioned this, like how May was erased from the records, and you said something you had like a Thrawn, not Thrawn, excuse me. Yeah, a Thrawn. Was it Thrawn? Or was it you had a quote?
Not so much a quote, but yes. So um it was there was something that Thrawn says in like one of his like 5 lines from Ahsoka, which are all memorable because they're Thrawn quotes. But I can't remember what part it is, but basically they're telling him that like, oh, the threat is dead. And he's like, oh yeah, and he's like talking about like the witches who are also present. He's like, witches like Jedi have a way of not staying dead, or something to that extent.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
So
which feels like it should apply here.
it feels very foreshadowing when it's like, okay, May's records were deleted. She's dead. She's a witch, and like witches don't stay dead, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
so it feels a little foreshadowing there.
Hmm.
Do we want to talk about Master Vernestra? Or did you want to touch on any more of the I'm so curious, like what is Master Vernestra?
Yeah,
I see
I
the
was
green
looking at
and
her,
yeah.
and yeah, I had the same thought. I was like, what species is this character supposed to be? Is she a mixed species? Is she just a species I don't recognize?
They are
She's like a green person, but she's got like kind of spots up on top of her head. And
yeah.
so I was like, my best guess is I just don't know. Or maybe she's the same thing as Barris. Because Barris was kind of green and
Oh,
she had like
the
triangular looking spots further
yeah,
down on
have
her
that
head.
patterning.
But I don't know.
I struggled
It
with
was an
like
interesting looking character.
I try to like associate these new characters to us to old characters. So initially I was like Hera, and then I was like, oh no, this is not
Right, right.
the same at all,
But I mean,
obviously,
if
but
you're not certain, maybe she could be part Twi'lek. Who
right? Like
knows?
who knows? Yeah. So I just want to touch on that a little bit. I'm just so curious about like what Master Vernestra is.
Well, and of all the, in your defense, of all the characters we've seen in Star Wars who are mixed species characters, the majority of them are part Twi'lek,
Yeah, exactly.
and they do come in a multitude of different colors.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Totally.
pink Twi'lek, they're green Twi'lek, they're
Mm-hmm.
other colored Twi'lek
There's
people.
colors though.
No, there's like yellow one, like kind of like humanoid colored ones as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them.
So let's dig into the prison transport and the escape, right? So let's dig into that and
Yeah.
what our thoughts were on that. So first, like you were saying, like that didn't make a lot of sense. You are more sciencey than I am. I was like, they're escaping. This is like entertaining. But then
None of
you
it
break
made
down. So you go over the science
even
things
before you go into
because
the science of it, none of it made any
so let's
sense.
hear it.
Well, okay, even the fact that the prison transport didn't work doesn't make sense. Why couldn't the prison transport prisoners
Hmm.
without failing?
What was that like cyborg human thing? Like,
I
what
don't know.
was that? Anyway, so
We've seen stuff like that in modern Star Wars, but never exactly like that one.
yeah.
I don't know what that was.
So let's talk about your thoughts on like, okay, the I
Fine, fine. I was so annoyed because the first thing they do is they the cyborg looking guy attacks the ship and the droids, and they all just kind of shut down. It pulls out of hyperdrive
Mhm,
or hyperspace, right?
mhm.
Um, in an asteroid field. Thank goodness they were pulled out of hyperspace in the asteroid field rather than going through an asteroid field at that speed. They would have been ripped apart and exploded.
Right.
But since they slowed down before they hit any of that stuff, it just kind of messed up the ship a little bit and it still crashed and the lone survivor lived. That didn't make sense to me. Like you plot courses through hyperspace. You don't plot a course through a densely populated asteroid field.
Mm-mm.
Coming out of hyperspace doesn't magically put you in a densely populated asteroid field.
No.
It the droids would have correctly calculated the route, and that's not where they would be.
Yeah.
That really bugged me.
But then also the happy accident of
Mhm.
landing in an atmosphere as well. Like, what are the
Oh,
chances of that?
yeah, even in Star Wars, where asteroids have enough atmosphere to breathe on occasion, you know, to end up crashing in the gravity well of a planet with an atmosphere and then not hitting anything sharply on the way down, but having a somewhat smooth crash landing.
Like, just
Um,
like,
yeah,
how is this even happening? But it's
I mean, I've seen Boeing on the news the last several months to year, and I've seen a lot of crash landings, and I've seen planes that crash land on a runway with wheels not looking that different.
so we got to see OSHA attempt to use the force to get Pip. She was
Oh
sticking her
yeah,
arm
that was
out.
fun.
She was like,
Yeah, yeah,
use
yeah.
the force, and yeah, it was kind of fun to like see her try. And I was really hoping because Pip, like the actor had said, like she got like attached emotionally to Pip, like the
Mhm.
actor was saying, like the
Yeah.
real life person. So like I think because of that now I'm like, oh, she's really attached to Pip. So
On that note, all of the interviews with Amanda Stenberg, who was playing both May and Osha, made me so happy to see someone who is so enthusiastic about Star Wars getting a lead role. It's just I feel like a lot of the fans feel more positively about these things when someone else who's a fan gets a big role in these shows. And when she showed up at the Star Wars celebration last year, I think it was, and she had her Padme cosplay on. It was just like this person is truly into this. But let's go back to what you were saying. I don't know why that popped in my head. I was
it's
just like,
okay. Can you tell
yeah, this
neurodivergent?
is someone who, like all of us, whether we admit it or not, has tried to use the Force before, and now we'll get to see her do it on occasion. That's really fun.
So let's dig back into her using the force. So what were your thoughts on them trying to use the force?
I thought that was really great the way they filmed it. It reminded me a lot of from the Kenobi series after he's cut himself off from the Force for a long time and then he suddenly needs to use it and he looks pained trying to do it because he's just been cut off for so long. He just like doesn't have that ability anymore the way he used to. And seeing her kind of do the same thing after having been like disassociated from the Jedi for all of 6 years, I think
Mhm.
it's supposed to be at this point. It just felt right, especially after having seen like Obi-Wan Kenobi go through the same process at roughly the same point.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was like when you mentioned that, I was like, oh, that is like so meaningful. Like even though the situation, like I wasn't a big fan of like the situation that they put her in. I liked that moment of like
Mhm.
her trying to use the force and like seeing that and like in a situation where she's just like, I just really need to get my pip and like save myself in the situation. Like
Mhm.
it was nice to see that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then she had to use her resourceful tools that sounds like she's been gaining over the last 6 years as a I'm gonna say it wrong, mech tech?
I think
Med
that's what they called it.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. It's like mech tech droid.
Hmm.
Yeah.
To circle back now, that makes me
Mhm.
have another thought though. Was her trying to use the Force there, why she had the Force vision after the crash landing?
No, I think here are my thoughts.
Right.
I think that was a vision planted through witchy cool techniques. I don't know. The
You think May planted that
Yeah, I
vision
think
somehow?
I think May is trying to tell her sister through witchiness.
But
Through
oh
witchy
wait,
messages.
I get the want to see that, but when May is confronted later and told Osha's still alive, she doesn't
She
believe
doesn't
them.
believe it.
So I doubt
What's
she
happening?
was sending
No, that doesn't
visions
make
to
sense.
her sister she doesn't believe is alive anymore.
That's really strange.
I don't think that's what that was.
That's really strange. Yeah, now I don't know. I'm just gonna have to wait and see. Now I feel silly about that. Yeah.
It's okay. I feel silly.
Um,
I was too harsh on the crash landing. They did crash,
they did crash.
and
Um,
most Boeings don't.
so
Most.
let's talk about two things. We talked about her visions on Karlak and how that was like it's very reminiscent to the beginning opening scenes, right? That vision that she had, and as she wakes up really harshly from the
Mhm,
crash, right? And
mhm.
this is kind of one of those instances where you're like, was that a dream? Was it whatever?
Yeah.
And that felt very similar to the opening scene where you see May kill the master
Mhm.
Jedi.
Yeah.
Um and then you cut to Osha on the ship waking up. And you're like, did she dream that? Was that
Yeah.
any way
They're trying to
related?
misdirect us a lot at this point in the
Exactly.
story.
So when it happened again, I was like,
Yeah.
ugh. Like it kind of like a little bit of whiplash, right? You're just like, ugh, like what? Why is this happening? Is this like her alter ego personality?
It's early in the storyline, like everything's a possibility. And her friend, who she seems to like, she has good good relationship with, is bugging her like, oh, why didn't you come out this weekend? And she's
Mhm.
instantly not willing to say what she was up to. Like, what I
Yeah.
do is none of your business,
Yeah.
friend. Like it's an odd interaction. It seems like they don't typically have interactions like that. Later on, we see that she does go out with her friends sometimes, and she gets
Mhm.
tattoos. She has fun, and
Yeah.
the one time she does it, she's like, "I'm not telling you. I was
Right.
in my bunk doing nothing all
It's
night."
none of your business. Yeah. So it's just kind of weird. Yeah. So that kind of like feeling of like misdirect and then like, is it a dream? Is it not? Like, what is happening here? So that's been throwing me off. I know this is off topic a little bit. I want to talk about the names because I noted the names. And so like Soul, we were talking about the name Soul, the
Hmm.
teacher
Hmm.
who is like it sounds like he's the one that found her and when she was 8 years old and
Hmm.
like was her sounds like maybe her master, she was his Padawan.
Something like that.
So like Soul, you were saying like that means star
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like so OSHA, of course you and I are like safety.
yeah. Right, right. Yeah, we kind of rabbit hold on like, do all the names have meanings?
I
I
don't
don't think they do,
know.
but we were having fun.
It was fun. It was a fun moment. Yeah. Let's jump into episode 2 because we just kind of talked about episode 1. Let's talk about episode 2. So, attack me with all of your strength is what May likes to say.
Yeah, this is like her phrase, and I assume this is like a ritualistic thing that she has to do.
Mm-hmm.
I did have some thoughts on that. It seems to be like an acolyte thing, whatever acolytes are for that matter. I did have a thought. They talk about like ending the dream of like the Jedi are maintaining the peace, and I think it's by making the Jedi attack you. And their whole thing is they need to kill a Jedi unarmed, even though we keep continuing to see May use weapons. It seems like this is a concept her master has instilled. Like, you're going to kill a Jedi without any of your own weapons, and that's important to them. And so, if we presume she follows through with this, it win or lose, it shows one of two things. If she wins, it shows that the Jedi, while they can defend against weapons and blasters, can't defend themselves against an acolyte. And if they do it and lose, it shows that the Jedi are attacking unarmed people. So either way, that's bad for the Jedi.
Yeah.
It's bad PR, and that seems to be something the acolyte and their master, plural possibility. It seems to be one of their driving goals at this
Yeah.
point in the storyline. It does feel silly every time she says the line.
Yeah.
She seems
She gets kind of in a similar position and she just goes like,
excited and frightened to me.
yeah, yeah, attack me with all of your strength.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just curious to see like,
It feels less like something about her attitude coming into it feels less like a fight to the death and more like a big final exam to me. Like,
Yeah. It feels like unorganized.
what do you mean by unorganized?
Like she shows up and it's not like the first master that she showed up to like kill, right? Like
Hmm.
shows up to the table full of people,
Hmm.
and like she says like attack me with all of your strength, right? And she
Hmm.
does the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then like the master, oh, what was her name? Master
And
Endara, yeah. Master Endara just kind of like side eyes her, and it's just like, and so it feels very unorganized. Like maybe it's not the response that she was expecting, right? Like to say that kind of thing and like show up in that kind of manner and be so like forward.
hmm.
I feel like maybe she was expecting a forward response back, and she's not getting that. That's why it feels a little unorganized in my mind.
I guess I could see your point. Something we didn't touch on about that whole segment was when she says, "Attack me with all your might," to Endara the first time, and she
Hmm.
replies, "Jedi don't attack unarmed people."
Hmm.
And I feel like that's a part of this image that the Jedi have that they're trying to protect.
Yeah.
And by having them attack an unarmed person is something they're trying to make that illusion go away. The Jedi don't
Mm.
do that kind of thing.
Ooh, yeah. Let's move on to Jason from The Good Place.
Jason.
Jason from The Good Place. So, Jason, okay, that's
Mhm.
not really his name. His name was Key. What was his name? Key something. Come here. That's what I was trying to see. I was saying it all wrong.
I didn't understand the question. So.
So, Kamir says after he makes a potion, not
Mhm.
potion, poison.
We call it
It's
potion.
a potion.
It's a witch. He
It's
made it for the witch.
he made the
It's a witch.
poison,
Poison
and then
witch.
he hands it to May,
Hmm.
and he says absolution. And
No, he's telling her what she can give him.
right, okay, well you had like such good opinions about this, and I'm trying to set you up to
Okay, I
answer
just
it.
felt like you were saying he named it absolution. Like
No,
that's he's
okay,
telling her that like this Jedi is in his trance state thing. They have a name for it. Um, and he's going to stay that way because he thinks it gives him peace, but he doesn't have peace. He needs absolution. He needs forgiveness for the crime he committed.
right. So this Jedi who was Master Torben,
Uh-huh.
who is now in a Barash vow and hasn't spoken in 10 years. It sounds like they've been in the state for 10 years,
Yeah.
which is a long time. So this I'm gonna say that name wrong again.
Come here.
Kamir.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I can't remember that name. Kamir says like that's what this Jedi is needing, right? Like
Yeah.
they're needing absolution. So they've done something bad, they're needing forgiveness, right?
Right.
Like yeah,
Yeah.
super interesting. So going zooming out a little bit, right? Because I feel like we just zoomed in really close into like the words they were using when making the poison. So when they are when Soul and what's his name? Yord
Mhm.
and I almost said Ahsoka. Osha fly into this new place. I can't remember the name of that either. I'm losing all my words right now.
Okay.
Olega. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So when they fly into Olega, so
Mhm.
I'm a photographer, so like I notice these things. They show us like this beautiful scenery backdrop, like city on a like island cliffs, gorgeous, gorgeous. But then I notice like there's lens flare that is, and it's like hazy, and it's like me as a photographer, I would probably throw that photo out because I'd be like, but sometimes it can look really beautiful and artsy, and like that's great. I sometimes deliver photos like that, but a lot of times I try to avoid hazy lens flared images. And it just kind of makes me wonder, and this may be my mind thinking into this too much, is like maybe there is some confusion going into this when they're flying into this new scene at Alega,
Oh,
that maybe there's confusion, right? Like
I didn't
they're,
understand what you said when you were saying it to me earlier, but
yeah.
you're saying it's like metaphorical.
Yeah, it's almost like a little bit of foreshadowing. Like there's gonna
Right.
be some confusion, there's gonna be some haziness. Like
Hmm.
That's what I got from it. I don't know if that's what they intended or if they just thought the lens flare was pretty and the
No, that
haziness,
seems really on the
but
nose now. I think you're right. I think that feels obvious now.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like them flying in and then the confusion that leads between like was it May? Was it
Hmm.
OSHA?
Well,
All
and
of
then
that.
when they come upon the body of Master
Torben.
Torben and OSHA standing there with the empty poison vial, like
Mhm.
everybody's really confused. And then it's
Mhm.
Yord who comes out and is like, actually, I watched her the whole time. She didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a really confusing moment for a lot of those people.
Hmm.
Like a second Jedi has pulled his weapon on OSHA.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. When OSHA went off on her own, I was like, "Girl, what are you doing?" Like she just like went off and then she got caught the dead body. And I was just like, "Why is she doing this? Doesn't she know to not like
Also, why
leave?
did she beat them there? Like, what scenic route did they take through the temple?
What did they do?"
Like, oh, let's hit the temple
Oh
snack
my
room on the way to see
gosh.
the master who was attacked the other night, guys. Anybody need to hit the bathroom first?
Right?
Or
Like
like
doing
OSHA
some
like
snacky.
sprints through the secret passageway of her vision quest.
Yeah, the whole yeah, that was very strange. But yeah, I was really glad that George, popped out and was like, "Oh, I've been watching her the whole time. Like,
Hmm.
there shouldn't be confusion here." Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, on that note of Yord, I love that he got to say, "I have a bad feeling about this"
Yeah, that's a special
when they.
line, and you don't hear it enough in the live action stuff, I feel like.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
felt I loved in Ahsoka when Jason gets to say it. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I know it's it's one of those things like a certain part of the fan base gets excited about and cares about, and maybe some new fans are just like, what's the hype? I liked it. I thought it was really fun,
Mhm.
and I'm sure in the moment he felt really special getting to be the first one who says that in this new era of this live action series.
Yeah. Super fun.
Yeah. And you got excited when he said this could be a trap.
Oh
Just because
yeah.
like you love that line, it's a trap. Um
So after Yord says that line, right? Like, I have a bad feeling about this. The whole thing goes down. The whole climax of this episode. There's like a
yeah.
fight between Soul and May, and like,
Mhm.
and then May sees
Oh shit.
Osha,
Mm,
and so like that interaction happens, right? Like Osha's got the stun gun or whatever the heck it was.
mhm,
I don't know. I don't pay attention to those types of things, but like she's got the gun on May
mhm.
and then she misses a shot. Like did she
She didn't miss. She aimed away and pulled the
that's my
trigger.
question. Like is
No,
she
they made it clear. Like
okay.
she has it on her. She points away and pulls the trigger.
Okay.
And I
So
think Soul saw that and knew what she did.
oh
Because he's
okay.
standing there with this sort of disillusioned look on his face, like he's disappointed in the choice she made,
Yeah.
but also like maybe he has some guilt still too, and he understands it.
Yeah.
That was my
Makes
impression
sense.
because they panned to him, and like once she escapes and drives away, he's the first person we see, and he
Mhm.
doesn't look happy.
No.
This guy looks pretty disappointed,
Yeah, pretty
and
disappointed in
someone
his
he's
Padawan.
stuck his neck out for,
Mhm,
and she's
mhm.
not his Padawan anymore. She's not his
There's
responsibility
still
technically, but
that
he
connection.
feels that.
Yeah, there's still that,
He
like
said earlier when she's like, well, maybe I wasn't a good Padawan. He's like, maybe I wasn't a good teacher.
see,
Like
yeah,
I
there's
failed my
some
student, and that's why you didn't stick around.
yeah. Yeah, because there's always, like, that feeling of, like, connection and all of that with the Padawans, I feel like. A and maybe that's just, like,
Which
me
is weird because they're not supposed to,
yeah,
but it's pretty
yeah,
clear most of them do.
they're very invested.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as the 2 episodes we just covered, we're wrapping that up.
Hmm.
I have some questions. So I want to know was was Osha strong in the Force when she was 8? Because it sounds like the girls a big event happened when they were 8 years old at this at Karlak, right?
Hmm.
So a big event happened where the Jedi came in and saved Osha and they left May for dead, supposedly. Like not left, but you know what I mean? Like she died. Supposedly she died. And then it sounds like
I
May
feel
thinks
like
the same
there's
thing.
some things in the story that imply what happened, but go ahead and then I'll say what I think happened
So
from
I'm
what you're
not
telling
really
us.
thinking about like the event, right? Like I
Okay.
like the event happened, like this is like there's so many things happening on so many planets. Like, I'm not really too concerned about what the event was because like we've read so many books where like we know like things happen on all these planets, like traumatic things, like terrible
Mhm,
things happen.
mhm.
What I'm most curious about was was Osha strong in the Force because she was trained to be a Jedi. The Jedi Order accepted her when she was 8 years old when they found her, right? And like
Mhm.
decided they made a decision, which is very unusual, to train her at the age of 8.
Right.
So my question is, was she strong in the Force? Like, why didn't they find her? Because you know how they have like their little like registry, for lack of better word, where they
So
go
I'm
and
either
like,
gonna sound too nerdy or not nerdy enough here because I think I can
okay.
answer every question you just posed and
Mm.
forget half of them in the process. So let's go. Um, First off, she's a witch. They're all force sensitive. They all use force magic. The
Mm.
force is connected to everything. If you can
Yeah.
do magic, you're force sensitive.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Well, technically, we're all like a part of the Force,
Of course,
but
of course. I know the Luke Skywalker speech. Some people, the door is wider open. I get it. Back to my point.
okay.
So yes, she's force sensitive. All the witches are force sensitive. I don't think it that was even a question. They found a young witch who had lost her entire family and was force sensitive and decided to take her in and train her in the ways of Jedi.
Yeah.
Sounds
So
like there were some
unusual.
hurdles in that process.
So unusual though. Like thinking like that's a traumatic event. They want like clean slate. They want like don't remember
Yeah,
your parents. Like have no
yeah.
traumas. Like.
I think that may be why they hid from her what really happened
Mm,
because the implication to me, it seems, from the voices that you hear in the dream that she has, from the stories we're hearing so far, and I could be really wrong, but the picture that I'm being given from reading sort of in between the lines here is that those four Jedi were stationed on that planet. That
mm,
was their job. They didn't just show up and save her from an event. They were there the whole time. May's sister, at least we're supposed to believe at this point, started that fire
mm.
and wouldn't let the family escape. And in the process of, or excuse me, May started the fire, wouldn't let the family escape.
Okay.
In the process of the Jedi trying to save Osha, they attacked May. They
Mm.
saw the little girl in the fire, rescued her, and then attacked May. Now, maybe May is a scapegoat here. Maybe she didn't start the fire. Maybe it just looks like she did. Um, I'm thinking of remember when Ahsoka gets arrested and they're like, "Oh no, we have you on video force choking that girl," and someone
Mhm.
else did it. I'm kind of picturing an event like that where
Okay.
someone else is starting this fire, and because of where everyone is in the process of it, it looks like May's responsible.
Yeah.
Either way, that seems to be the story the Jedi are sticking with. Um, and I think they attack May. That's what
Okay.
I'm getting right now. We'll find out soon.
Yeah.
I mean, how
I'm
many
excited
episodes is
to.
this show supposed to be?
Don't ask me those questions. I do not know.
Everything's about 8 episodes now, so I'm guessing
We'll see.
8.
I was worried going into it because like I feel like there's no emotional ties for me. Like I remember when I first started the
I
first
agree.
episode, I am used to crying almost every episode of Star Wars because it's
Yeah,
like we get so invested in these characters. So even in like Andor, when it's like a whole slew of new characters, there were some
really emotional
familiar,
in certain
but
parts.
there were some familiar faces sprinkled in as well that we could bring back
Sure.
and like
Yeah.
tie us back in and be like,
I mean,
oh
if
yeah,
you've
yeah,
seen
yeah.
Rogue One,
No.
Cassian.
Well, Cassian, but then also the Senator
Oh,
Amidala. No,
Mothma?
Mothma. Why did I say Amidala? Moth. Yeah. Words. So yeah, like so that's what I mean. Like
Mm-hmm.
they have with these newer series, they've been really smart to incorporate characters that we already know and love or like are familiar with, right? So like Ahsoka, my God, like it was in the Star War world, a star-studded cast, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
in that sense, like oh my gosh, crying every episode, seeing all sorts of crazy stuff. So that at the end of this first episode, I was a little disappointed that I didn't get my normal like little cry session out of it because I was like, oh, but also like I'm still very excited and like
Mm-hmm.
curious and I'm hopeful and I have a feeling I'm going to become invested in these characters. I'm just like excited to see like how and why I become invested.
I think that's a really, really great point because I think one of the things that has been really special in the last couple of years of most Star Wars content is you get that emotional investment sooner rather than later. And I'm not feeling that yet. I think I'm really hopeful and optimistic about that coming. You definitely you get a lot of heart behind the character's soul. Um, if I had to guess, if a character is going to break our heart or die and make us sad about it, it's probably that one. You know, they're kind of setting him up as our friendly face in this series, and
Yeah.
um, just like when Tech got a whole bunch of screen time in that one episode,
Don't even.
you know,
Why do you have to bring that up?
just it's relevant.
Ugh.
It's relevant.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I'm really optimistic. I think there's a lot of ways they could go with this show. I think they're doing a really good job with having a strong female lead, a character that's
So
believable.
nice. So nice.
Witches are always
Yeah.
fun. When in doubt, go with witches. It's always fun to see a Wookiee character. I'm wondering if it's the same actor that they have as all the Wookiee characters now. He's fun. He's also like super enthusiastic about it, like
Yeah,
the Star
he's like a
Wars
super
celebration
fan.
stuff. So
Yeah.
that should be interesting. I think we'll see that in the next episode.
Yeah. It's really exciting. Yeah. So this was our 2 episode breakdown on like just our thoughts. Please let us know what you think. We do not have an Instagram handle or any of that stuff for Star Wars yet. Like but you can find us here.
Yeah, I mean, we're just having fun with this right now. We'll see if this goes anywhere. If it doesn't, that's fine too. We just had a lot of thoughts that we kind of want to get out and see if other people are feeling the same way. And so if that's something that you want to talk about, leave comments, ask your questions. If there's something that you want us to talk about or that you think we got wrong or missed, uh, please leave it in the comments and we'll do our best to address all of them.
Yeah, that sounds good. So yeah, we'll catch you next week. I bet you next week won't be as long because it's just gonna be one like episode. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens next week.
Next week, which should be fun. I saw a TV spot for next week's episode
Mhm.
and we'll cover yours then. Um, Oddly enough, we got a Zygerian in the first episode, and if you remember from Clone Wars, they had their whips that are kind of lightsabery, and there's one in the TV spot for the next episode. Somebody has one of those things.
Fancy.
Yeah,
That's
so
really
that
cool.
should be entertaining to say the least.
That'll be
All
good.
right,
Okay, so we'll talk about it next week. Again, I'm Monica, and this is.
our Star Wars podcast.
You didn't say your name.
I'm Evan. Thanks for joining us.
We'll catch you next week, and hopefully we'll have a name by then. Okay, bye.
Bye.